What's going on, guys? Brendan Dennis here. In this video, we're going to be talking about the coronavirus and how it affects all of our businesses, as well as what we can do right now to mitigate the impact and in the future. So in this video, I'm not going to talk too much about the virus itself. If you guys want to learn more about the actual virus, I'll link something in below the video so you guys can take a look at that. What we're going to be talking about is how to actually avoid the impact for your business that's for the coronavirus right now, as well as avoiding this impact in the future. So before we go into this, it's not just drop shipping sites that are going to have the problem. Anybody who's trying to outsource from China is going to be running into some sort of bottleneck at this point. Some of you, that might be Amazon FBA, some might have their own private labeling where they're ordering things on the fly from China. All this type of stuff, these type of business models are going to be affected when something like this happens. So with the Chinese New Year as well as the coronavirus hitting all at the same time, it's causing a lot of us to have a giant bottleneck when it comes to getting a backlog of orders, whether that's a drop shipping or Amazon FBA or anything else. So it's going to be a really big impact for a lot of you, especially if you don't buy in bulk, for example. If you have everything being bought as one product at a time per order, you're going to run yourself into a 3-4 month wait, depending on how long this might be going on. So it's important to kind of look over these steps that I'm going to go over right now to kind of see how we can avoid and mitigate this right now, immediately, if you've already caught yourself in the position of not having bulk. And then we're going to look at what we can do in the future to make sure that we don't have to deal with this and it doesn't affect our business model and allowing us to continually run business throughout this entire time, including the Chinese New Year. So the first thing you want to do right now is, if you're running Facebook ads, pause them. Pause the ads. There's a lot of speculation on whether pausing or stopping altogether can affect your performance. It does to a point, but realistically, you don't want to be pushing money and orders into your site if you can't fulfill them at the moment. If you cannot fulfill them at all at this point, cut the expenses out and then reset yourself afterwards. Sometimes the customers might be a little irritated about the ones that are currently waiting, but we'll go into that in another step. For now, cut the ads if you don't have a way to supply the order. Number 2, customer contact. It's extremely important to keep in contact with your customers to let them kind of know what's going on. Send out a massive email blast to everybody that has put in an order. Let them know a little bit about what's happening in China and why things might be slow. And then give a special email to ones that have already purchased but you have not fulfilled yet. A lot of times people are willing to work with you. You just have to have that communication between you two to get that thing to even happen. Otherwise, they're going to be like, where's my product? It shouldn't matter what's kind of going on around the world. If you don't tell them, that's what they're going to think. And then you start getting chargebacks and you start getting angry emails. Nothing's going to piss off a customer more than ordering a product, and then after a week and a half, 2 weeks, they email you back and then you tell them that there's a problem. You don't want to do that. You want to get out in front of this if you can. Some of us are guilty of this, some aren't. It really depends on the individual, but sometimes people are waiting to fulfill an order, whether that's for something on purpose or whether that is just you're running into a supply problem. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you haven't fulfilled an order for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and this is starting to happen with the new year as well as the coronavirus. You want to make sure that you get in contact with those customers. Find out if they're okay with waiting. Explain the situation. Explain that your shipment that you're currently waiting for is due to the coronavirus. Give them a little bit of information about it. Send them to a link. See if they're okay with waiting. If not, offer to refund their money. Again, that customer communication is going to be key when dealing with this type of stuff. And worst case scenario, you'd rather cut your losses now than have a horrible reputation later down the road of bad reviews and a bunch of other things because you just didn't tell anybody and then they had to go through chargebacks. People are much more willing to give your brand a try, again, if you've given them their money back without much problem and you gave them a reasonable time frame and a reasonable reason, rather than having to go through a chargeback and have them go to the bank, deal with it. It's a lot of headache. So try to make sure that you keep that customer contact. And with the orders that are already backordered before this has even happened, you might want to think about returning the money at this point for those specific orders if they're not willing to wait. So an interesting option here is ordering off of Amazon. Now, this is where you're gonna have to take that hit of not making any money or possibly being negative on a few of your orders. If you've got customers specifically that are 2 or 3 weeks back before the coronavirus had even hit, and you decided to wait that amount of time for X reason, doesn't matter, and they haven't even gotten their product sent, it's started to be sent yet, it might be best to see if you can get it on Amazon for as cheap as possible and just send it to yourself and then have it shipped back out to a customer. They might have to wait an extra few days to get it, which would be much faster than e-packet or anything else that you're going to be doing at the moment, and definitely faster than waiting for all the factories to start back up. Again, you'll probably hit a loss here, but you're going to have happy customers, and that's going to be the biggest return on investment that you can do, is have a good customer base that is willing to rebuy from you. And if you can't do that and everybody's doing chargebacks, nobody's going to want to come back to you. You can only sustain a business model for so long on only new customers. You want that extra growth to happen, and the bigger your customer base is, the bigger the growth is going to happen over time. So the last step here for what we can do at this exact moment is to plan for the next one. We need to start planning for the event of something happening to your supplier. Whether that's the coronavirus, whether that's they shut down for a particular amount of months due to bankruptcy, it doesn't matter. You want to plan for something. So the way to do this is to get in contact with a supplier that can buy some of it in bulk. Now, a lot of suppliers, if you can show that you do, 50, 100 orders a day, 20 orders a day, it really depends on the person, they'll buy stuff in bulk for you. They might not buy 1,000 of them in bulk, but they'll buy maybe 50, 60, 70 in bulk ahead of time, and they'll always keep that stock for you. So when something like this happens, or the Chinese New Year happens, when stuff starts to shut down for about a month, on a yearly basis, not even including the coronavirus, you'll have everything prepped and ready to go. It's always important to have some bulk on hand in case something like this happens. I try to have about a month to a month and a half worth of my current amount of sales backlogged for myself just in case something happens. And get in contact with a supplier if you don't already have one to try to fulfill that need right away. So what I like to do is a little bit of the profit every single month. You want to buy a little bit more stock. Have your supplier buy a little bit extra, a little bit extra, a little bit extra, a little bit extra. That way you'll be able to avoid this problem in the future, and you're not going to have to buy a massive amount of bulk. Now you can buy 1,000 units straight up if you want to. If you have the capital to burn, go for it. But for those just starting off, if you started in January or February of 2020, by the time the end of the year rolls around, you want to have enough bulk for the next 2 to 3 months during that time where there's going to be a gap. So this is what kind of suppliers come into a really big part of sorting out this type of problem when coronavirus is hit, or any other phenomenon that might occur that's not something you can expect. Suppliers are your best friend. Get a best friend supplier, make that connection, keep the communication open between you two, and keep a good standing in the business relationship. That person's going to be able to help you with your other sites or with other things in general. But it's extremely important to have that supplier on tap, ready to go, so that way if something like this happens, they know you're working business with them. They will buy in November, in December, a month in advance if they know you're good for it. If you've been working with them for the last 8-9 months and you've been paying everything on time, orders are coming in, they're making money, you're making money, ask them to buy 1 month ahead of time for January. Then you have the stock. And then if you run into that stock, have them buy an extra month, so there's always a month on tap. It's always important to have that breathing room in case anything were to happen like this. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you guys learned a few things that you can implement right now to kind of help soften the blow of what we're currently seeing, rather than just cold cutting the business straight up until this whole thing is sorted. And then hopefully we can plan a little bit more ahead of time. Remember, business is a long game, not a short-term game. You want to make sure that you're looking at this from a 10-year lens, 5-year lens, not a 3-month lens. And that's going to be the big difference between you being prepared for something like this and not. So go ahead, if you guys haven't already, hit the subscribe button and let me know if there's anything else you guys want to hear about.